It's rock and roll!
Welcome to an episode of the Look It's Rock and Roll podcast. We are back, and we're not talking about Wasp today. We are instead going to be opening up a diary and seeing what the Madman... where is it? Come on.
Yeah, here it is.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is. Now we all have it out there.
Yeah, so we've decided that it's overdue talking about Ozzy Osbourne. And who picked this? Ken?
I did, actually.
Nice.
Why?
Well, I remembered it, and I actually restocked my vinyl of a new, vinyl pressing of it, and I thought, man, this album's a really good album. So I thought, I'll suggest it. Go ahead and suggest it. So that's it.
So as everyone out there will know, Diary of a Madman was Ozzy Osbourne's second post-Sabbath solo album, released, when was it? November 1981, recorded earlier in the year, with the same cast of characters as the debut, I believe. Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake on drums, and writing much of the album itself as well. So the pictures of whomever is on the back or in the packaging, I think Rudy Sarzo and Tommy Aldridge by that time, were not on the album, nor was the credited keyboard player. This one does not sell as many as the Blizzard of Oz, but it's also clear that Ozzy Osbourne is a solo act and not a Blizzard of Oz, a band at this time. The two common denominators remain in focus and impress. Randy Rhoads on guitar and Ozzy, of course, on lead vocals. Let's go around the table about your history with Ozzy Osbourne as a solo act versus Black Sabbath. Leave that out of the equation. What was your first solo album by Ozzy, and what is your favorite solo album by Ozzy? Lonnie?
Well, my introduction to Ozzy came with No Rest for the Wicked. My brother bought that in, I guess it was around 88 when that came out, 89, something like that. So I'm about fifth grade, fifth grade, something like that. My brother's 4 years older than me. He had it, and as a younger brother, you always like what your older brother likes, because you want to be like him. He's like he was like my idol growing up. And so that was my introduction to Ozzy, was No Rest for the Wicked. And then he bought Diary, I don't know, I'd say not long thereafter. So that was my introduction. And we were really into Ozzy, and he was really into Ozzy as a solo artist, at least at that stage. And before he went and bought the Black Sabbath catalog. It was always Ozzy as a solo artist. He loved Ozzy. Even though Ozzy's obviously the singer of Sabbath, but the first things he bought he got really into Ozzy. Ozzy is his Kiss for him. He bought all that Ozzy stuff. So I know this Ozzy stuff backwards and forwards because I heard it in the next room growing up. So I've been familiar with Diary then since, I don't know, since I was 10, 11 years old, probably at the latest.
Favorite album?
Favorite album? Sorry, not paying attention. Just rambling. Favorite album is No More Tears.
Nice. Welcome to my world, rambling. Yeah, so for me, I first encountered Ozzy. My cool aunt used to send cassettes out to us in America, from England, of course. And one year, one of the batches that showed up, I think was Led Zeppelin 4, and Bark at the Moon. That might have been the year that If You Want Blood, You Got It. So that she served as an introduction to a lot of music, whether we were back home in England visiting her or when we were growing up. So Bark at the Moon was my entry point, but that also came around the time that I was getting into hard rock. And that one, it was like, wow, it's a really good album, very strong, in terms of its music and musical performance. So it's not my favorite. My favorite Ozzy album by far is The Ultimate Sin. especially the Ultimate Ozzy versions of quite a few of those songs, because live they sound far better than they do on album. But I just like the stories in the kind of the lyrics of that one much more than anything. So when I started going back and exploring the Ozzy catalog, I eventually got to these, and there's no denying that the first two albums are sublime. They almost don't deserve to be counted in the rest of his discography because they're at the whole next level. So, Mark, what about you? Your introduction to Ozzy and your favorite?
Funny, the introduction for me, I know everyone's going to say, oh, it's going to be the sister again. Actually, it wasn't the sister. This time it was in the apartment building where we lived back in the day there. There was a guy in our building who had this really cool cut-off jean jacket. And he was like a artist guy, painter. And on the back of his jacket, instead of a patch, he painted Ozzy holding this cross and with one hand, and in the other hand holding this cut off head with blood dripping out of the neck. And I remember seeing this guy in the elevator all the time with this, and it just said Ozzy on the back of his jacket. And I was like, holy shit, what the hell is that? Young kid, I didn't know what the hell this was. And then, years later, funny enough, I heard Crazy Train on our local radio station quite a lot. They played it quite a bit here, surprisingly, back in the day. And when I went to high school, one of the first bands I ever put together, the guy I met who ended up being the singer in the band, he went to me one time and he goes, hey, I heard that you know how to play Crazy Train on guitar. Show me. And we were doing classical guitar at the time, so I just had like a little nylon string and I just showed him basically some of the riffs. And he's like, cool, we should come and jam. And so we made a band and blah, 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 blah. Right. But these albums, like the first two Ozzy albums, made a huge impact on me. Randy Rhoads was a very big influence on me early on in my guitar playing. I mean, everything about him I thought was cool. I loved the long hair, the Les Paul, the polka dot outfit I thought was kind of cool. And, that picture that I showed even before here, I think it was, this one here, that was in the tribute of Ozzy holding Randy up there in the air. I always thought that was an awesome shot of him. And, when I got tribute from my sister for Christmas, that you didn't see me come out of that bedroom for months. I was like, that album was like in my brain playing forever and ever, and I learned every single note of it. But the funny thing is, my favorite Ozzy album is neither one of these two. My favorite Ozzy album is the same as Julian's, The Ultimate Sin. I've always thought Ultimate Sin is by far the benchmark Ozzy album, and I think it's owed all to Jakey Lee. His guitar playing on that album is unbelievable. Most underrated guitar playing on a record I've ever heard in my life. I mean, his solos in some of these songs, his rhythm guitar playing, fantastic. So that's my favorite record.
You're all right, Mark. I like you. Ken, what about you? Was your entry point a bit ahead of ours? You seem to be ahead of us on most things in music.
Yeah, I remember hearing Crazy Train on the radio. I don't know what I was doing, but I remember hearing it and I was like, oh man, this is pretty good, And I wasn't into Black Sabbath. I didn't even have any Black Sabbath albums at that time. I was listening to some other stuff, Kiss and other stuff, but so I didn't realize so much that Ozzy was, the former lead singer of Black Sabbath and so on. But I liked that album or that song so much that I thought, oh man, it's probably, pretty good one to pick up. So I went and, picked it up shortly thereafter. And then, the next album, I heard some of that and I picked that one up, as which is the one we're talking about today, Diary of a Madman. So, that was really my starting point. That's when I first learned of Ozzy, and then I started finding out, okay, he's the guy who sang Iron Man and all this other stuff, right? So that was my starting point. But as for a favorite album, I'm gonna say it is this album, Diary of a Madman. I really like this. I think it's just a solid album, well produced, and a lot of cool stuff on it.
Yeah,
More up my alley.
It is fantastically produced, and for you, I guess, if you were getting into Kiss in 77, 77 wouldn't have been a good year to be getting into Sabbath, would it? If you think
I don't
of
think so.
no, what came out around that time, though Johnny Blade is cool. All right, let's get it straight into the song rankings on this one, because we don't need to dig as much into the history of Ozzy Osbourne as anything. So as always, each member of the panel provided a ranking of the album from favorite to least favorite song. That doesn't mean that the least favorite song is crap or hated or derided. It's just something that is personally preferred over the other. We added this all up and put it through the Excel spreadsheet and come out with a ranking. So, drum roll, in 8th place with a grand total of 7 points. This ranking essentially has 3 sections, guys. The bottom 2, the top 2, and the rest. But again, the album is fantastic from start to finish, essentially. So getting back to our least favorite is Tonight. Lonnie, Tonight. It's not one of your favorites, I believe. No.
It's not. It's second to last on my list. Ozzy singing a ballad just, for the most part, really just doesn't work. You know, his howling voice just really doesn't interpret well to a ballad, and this one just seems more forced than others, in my opinion, too. It's kind of like Goodbye to Romance, that works off of Blizzard, but this, I felt like they had success with Goodbye to Romance, so they felt like they had to have another ballad on this. You know, and we know another band that always felt like, well, we have to have a ballad on there too. So I just feel like this was just one of those instances where it was just kind of forced, and they thought maybe they'd have a follow-up to Goodbye to Romance, and to me it just falls way short of the mark. Like we always skipped it as kids, and I still skip it today. So
wow, skip it. Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, I find it too forced as a ballad. I mean, it's great construction wise. It's exquisitely crafted. It's beautifully performed. The backing track is incredible. All of the players are pulling it, but it doesn't seem very honest. So it's like a deliberate ploy to get some radio airplay, and it's just a little bit too over the top to be believable as Ozzy. And you nailed it with Goodbye to Romance. And there's another song on this album which I think is kind of ballady that does a better job of it. Mark, you're the only one that put this one in bottom place on their ranking. Why did it fall at the bottom of your list?
Pretty much the same reasons that Lonnie and you said too. I think Ozzy and ballad equals no good, in my opinion. I've never really liked Ozzy's ballads. I mean, the only one that I thought was decent is Mama, I'm Coming Home, and that's years later that he did that one. But I don't know, this, like, when I'm thinking about it from this perspective, when I was younger, when I first got this record, like when I got Blizzard of Oz, you know, Goodbye to Romance, I was kind of like, I didn't mind it, but even then I was kind of like, really, Randy Rhoads? I mean, you got one of the best guitar players, the biggest gunslingers out there now, and you're making him play this garbage? Like, come on. Like, when I heard this song too, I was like, wow, like, what did Randy even do here? Like, he must have been nodding off. Like, and that's kind of the perspective of the young Mark coming up and playing guitar. It was all about the leads and the shredding and stuff like that, and wanting to hear a lot of the fire that Randy Rhoads brought to the songs. And with this song, it just seemed like I don't know, like an intermission. Almost seemed like one of those times where when I was listening to the record, I would get up and go get myself a drink or something and come back before SATO would start, right? It just wasn't one of those things where it really connected with me. It's not in retrospect, years later, it's not a bad song. It's, you know, like you said, it's well recorded, it's performed well. The guitar solo is really good that Randy does on it, but it's just not what I think is the high point of this record.
Yeah, good analysis. All right, Ken, you ranked it the same as Lonnie and me.
Yeah, I mean, it's 7 of 8 on my list. And I kind of agree with you guys. I mean, again, it's a nice, catchy ballad, but there's nothing really, that stands out or separates it from other ballads or anything. It's kind of falls in line with some other maybe bands that are doing ballads at the same time. And there's nothing real unique about it that stands out. It's just kind of a straight ahead ballad. It's well constructed, like you said, Julian. The best part I like about it is the wailing kind of solo that's going into the fade out. That's pretty much the best part of the song for me. Otherwise, it's okay. I mean, Ozzy comes across, his voice as if singing a ballad. It's kind of a whiny, kind of voice for a ballad in a way. Not that it's bad. Like Mark said, the other song later on, it works. So yeah, it's just an okay song. It's not bad. It's just nothing, that really sticks out as a unique thing.
Yeah, it's not terrible. I'm not skipping over it. I was just looking at the wiki page for the album, and they've got Rolling Stone's review of the album that says the songs are little more than riffs with a vocal line pasted on top, and then referred to Rhodes as a junior league Eddie Van Halen, busted with chops but somewhat short on imagination. Yeah, that does not age well. Edward Van Halen was certainly fantastic, but Randy Rhoads was incredible for all too short a period, and we never got to see him mature, and we'll never know where he would have gone. All right, let's move on into 7th place. On 11, I thought this song was going to end at the bottom because of my personal taste. 11 points, Little Dolls, which I rank at the bottom because I find it cloyingly annoying. But the album's so short that I can't be bothered to skip over it. Ken, back to you on Little Dolls.
Yeah, Little Dolls. I had it about mid 5 on my list. I like it. I think I like the drum intro on it. Has a simple riff, and lots of times simple riffs are, the best way to write a song. And what I really like is the middle part, bridge. It says bridge around 3 minutes in. That is really cool. And a lot of that and what comes after that bridge is the best parts of the song. So the first half is pretty, it's pretty good. It's good. But the second half is even much better. Nice, simple solo. And cool, guitar fills from Randy on that one. So yeah, I like it. It's a decent song. Not a skipper for me.
Lonnie, what about you?
Excuse me. I like Little Dolls. I think I put it 6 out of 8. It's a good song. I love the drum intro. Ken mentioned the drum intro, which is really fun. And I like the way Ozzy sings this song. Like it really has like the Ozzy howls in this song. He really has like his Black Sabbath type of vocals going on this song, more so than others. That's what I really. It sounds very Sabbathy to me when I listen to it. It sounds like it could fit on most any Sabbath record, especially by the way Ozzy's singing it. And like Ken mentioned, the bridge too is really cool as well. So I like it. I put it number 6. And and I can see why other people would put it, lower. Some people might look at the song and Sato, and we'll get to that one as well, as like maybe the 2 filler songs out of an 8-song album, even though they're really good songs. And we say this a lot of the times when we do rankings like this, that I like Diary of a Madman from start to finish. Unfortunately, some songs just have to finish, 8th and 7th out of the short list of songs available. But I like the song. I really do. I really like the way he sings it.
Nice. Mark.
Yeah, this song, it grew on me the more I listened to it. I have it in 6th place too. One of the things I've always loved about this song is that drum intro. And one of the things that most people don't seem to realize is that that's a double-tracked drum intro. That do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. You have to play that twice, and like to mimic it, to make that sound of it. It's not just some crazy slapback or something. It's him doubling it, and that ain't easy to do on drums. Guitar players are used to doing double tracking, and vocalists are as well, but drummers don't have to do that very often. It sounds really cool. I remember when I was listening to it once at my sister's ex-boyfriend's house. He had this really gigantic sound system because he used to DJ, and he used to play it. And when I would go by there, and he'd check it out. He'd put it on the stereo system, and it would just like whoa! Like when the drums would come in, it was just unbelievable in that song. And again, I have to agree. I think it was Lonnie who said that he likes the way he sings it, and I think it's definitely in his strong voice characteristic, this song, like that whole everything is great, like that whole thing at the top is really cool how he sings that. And one of my favorite parts is that whole the pins and needles prick the skin, that whole little breakdown part that he does there. I've always liked that, the way he harmonizes in that part. And the chorus is pretty catchy. It's not by far the best songs on this album, far from it, but it's still a really strong song, I think. And I've always enjoyed it. I think it has some good Randy guitar playing in it, and it has a pretty thundering rhythm section. That whole dun dun dun, that drum and bass thing that they do in unison together is pretty powerful.
All right, Ken, you ranked this the highest of us.
I already said. I already talked about it.
Did you? Oh yeah, I started with you. I'm losing it. I need to get some sleep. All right, so in sixth place, 14 points. Now we have clear separation. The next four songs are all completely middle of the road and could be interchanged, really. You can't kill rock and roll, which I love. I've always liked this. It's a story. It's got sections, it's got valleys, it's got mountains, it's got everything. And it's also got really, really good playing and good singing by Ozzy as well. It really is a very, very fine song. Mark, back to you for that one.
Yeah, this is actually one of the first songs that me and that friend that I mentioned earlier, we actually sat down and learned, because it has a really surprisingly easy kind of guitar playing part in there that Randy does. It's just basically one chord that he just goes up and down with. It's just that whole major chord here, but he plays that thing at the top there, right? He does that thing at the top, and he just slides it down from B to A to G. It's just the same chord all the time there. That he just plays, and it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's just really simple. But I really thought that because it's so simple, Ozzy's singing was much better because he has so much space to sing over it. And of course, for me, the end part of the song, many people have said that the fade out in this song is way too long, but I disagree. There's some of Randy's most interesting guitar solo spots are in the end here with the wah and how he uses that kind of stuff, some of the effecting on his guitar on there. It's really cool. I've always thought that it tries to be an anthem, like you can't kill rock and roll, but it kind of falls in between an anthem and a ballad. You know what I mean? So it's almost like he's trying to compensate and try to, please two audiences, the ballad people and the anthemic rocking guys, and I think he kind of straddles it pretty decently, in my opinion.
Jekyll and Hyde in a song. Yeah. Both sides of Ozzy.
Yeah.
Something that Sabbath didn't quite do effectively, to do hard stuff and softer, more accessible stuff all in one song in some ways. Ken?
Yeah, I really like this song. You think it's going to be a ballad.
Yeah.
at the beginning when it starts, and it's like, okay, another ballad, but then it kicks in, to the rocking, and I do like the more instrumentation on the second verse. It's a good guitar solo right there, but not overdone or anything in the middle. And like Mark was talking, I was thinking the same thing. It's kind of anthemic, the chorus. I think trying to rally the headbangers out there and that sort of thing. You can't kill rock and roll.
Yeah.
And I also agree with Mark. I'm one of the people that think that it should have been longer, because I was in my notes. I said I wish the song continued longer with the soloing.
Yeah.
Because I thought, oh man, there's some good stuff there, and I think they cut some out. So maybe a special edition or box set will come out one day, and we'll get something like that. So because it sounds like there's a lot more that they recorded probably for that. So yeah, this is just one of my favorite songs on the album. I think when I put that as number 2, so it's one I really like a lot.
Yeah, if they ever get to the super deluxe for this, I wish that they just put out an instrumental disc of the album with no vocals so that people could hear all the tones of the music without any vocals on top, just to really explore it. And Mark, I was just looking at the length of this album, 43 minutes. That's right in your wheelhouse, isn't it?
Yes, perfect.
Lonnie.
I had this ranked the lowest out of mine. I guess I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm tired of the song, because the radio station here in St. Louis just plays it to death still to this day. Like,
Really?
I mean, you hear it all the time. It's just like, I like the song. Don't get me wrong. It's a little. It starts off slow, like you guys saying, and then it gets going. I like it, but I think I view it the way it's really strange. Like Mark was surprised that the radio station here plays it all the time, but I kind of put it in the category of like Kiss fans put "I Love It Loud" in. It's just like, all right, it's a good song, but God, do I need to hear it again?
Yeah.
So for me, that's just where it's at. And again, it's not a bad song, but it's just run its course with me. You know, just like we would say about Rock and Roll All Night or something like that. It's not a bad song, but the song's just run its course with us. Like it doesn't really resonate with me anymore. So that's where I'm at. It's a good song, from start to finish. It's a long song, and you know, like, but to Ken's point, you know, I'd like to hear where it goes after the fade out at the same time. So for me, it had to finish last for me. It's just in St. Louis, it's just burnt out for me.
Right. So you're not a hater. You're just fatigued.
Correct.
Who was it said that you know, about the song starting to mellow and rocking, that you know, that doesn't really always go together, be one or the other on the song. But I think, you know, some other groups were doing stuff like that too. I think even didn't Triumph do like you know, like Fight the Good Fight? Was that like that
kind
too?
of, well,
To a degree, or
Lay It on the Line is kind of like that too, where it starts off kind of mellow and then it kicks in, right? Lay it on. It starts out really mellow. Yeah, look, whoever said that is wrong. You can do soft and hard together. It works. You know, I mean, whoever thinks that you can't do that just obviously doesn't listen to a lot of music, probably. But you know, that I think it works perfectly well.
yeah.
Good. I'm glad we're all agreed by that. And I actually think Lonnie should be happy he actually gets to hear it on the radio.
Yeah, I've
when I
never.
listen-
We do have a good rock station in town.
Yeah, but I actually have a rock station.
We have a really good rock station.
I'll take hearing that repeatedly over hearing "Born to Be Wild" or "Purple Haze" any day of the week, or "Lick It Up" for that matter. All right, moving on. In 5th place on 17 points, "Believer." Lonnie, are you Believer?
I can't believe this song is as low as it is.
I agree.
I love this song. I am a believer, but I absolutely love the song. I almost put it number 1. I put it number 2. I almost put it number 1. I absolutely love the song. I love the way the bass starts out on it. I love the way it just grows. I love the lyrics are motivational. It's kind of like a Kiss song where the lyrics are motivational, get you fired up a little bit. It's a good song to work out to. The first time, might not have been the first time I saw Ozzy. Maybe it was one of the first times I saw Ozzy. He opened with this, and like my brother and I are like, "Holy shit!" He's opening with like, because Ozzy's as bad as Kiss. Like hardly ever switches up the set list. It's the songs that he plays, and these are the songs that we play. We may play them in a different order, but these are the songs we're going to play. But he opened it up with "Believer," and like we looked at each other and just started pushing each other. Like, can you believe he's playing? Unbelievable. So for that reason too, I love it too. And him and like my brother and I are singing it at this show, and like a lot of the people around us like don't even know the song, because you know it's not one of the major songs off of Diary. You know, a lot of people at big shows like that, especially at these outdoor sheds, you know, they know the hits, and you know they're casual fans, but we're like so excited he's playing this to open up the show with like, what are we in for tonight? It's back in the day when, you know, the set list just wasn't available online from the very first show. Like we had no idea what he was going to play. So for that reason, it resonates with me just because it's a great memory with me and my brother, and I just love the motivation, the motivational aspect of that song. I run to the song quite a bit. It's always like on a good running playlist for me, and it's just it's motivational, and I love that bass intro too, and going back to when he played it in concert, like Ozzy comes out and it's just this bass intro to start. It was really a different type of vibe and a different way to start the show, but Believer's great, and I almost put it one, so I'm disappointed in the rest of you that it's this low.
Yeah, but again, everything on the album I think is
Oh,
good.
for sure.
Yeah.
And it is anthemic. The Believe, the Ozzy on a Stallion saying "Destiny planned out. I don't need no handout." Great stuff lyrically.
It is.
And no, he didn't write it probably lyrically as
No,
much, but
Bob.
it doesn't matter. He delivers. Musically, vocally on the song. Mark.
Yeah, I'm with Lonnie on this one 100%. I don't know why this is so down on the list. It should be way higher up. This song, I remember the first time I heard this song, I was like, what the fuck with that intro? Dun, 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 and so distorted. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. It made like Gene Simmons' bass sound tame in comparison how distorted this is, and the thing that really caught me, which made me like, I was one of those moments when I first heard it, like my friends were in the room and I was like, shut up, shut up, shut up. Like I was making them, I didn't want to hear them even say a word, because when Randy started doing those little harmonics on top of it and all those little lines on top of it, and I was just like, just taken aback, like that whole that riff that he does on top of it and everything, just fantastic. And the breakdown where he drops down a bit and plays kind of the clean part in the middle there, fantastic. The soloing, this is so good. The use of the wah pedal in this is really good. It was the song that made me go and buy a wah pedal at the local music store. I was like, that's it, I'm getting a wah. I love the way he does that sweep with the wow with it. It sounds so awesome. And and the whole version of that on Tribute, where he does the thing with the toggle switch in the one section, is just like, wow, this is so cool. And the live version I think is even better, if you can believe it, than the studio version of that. And because you get so much more of it at the end, because they drag it out a bit, it fades out in the album. But just, it's so like, it's so borderline prog on the guitar playing, because it's so complicated. If you were to sit down and learn this song note for note like I did, okay, it's not an easy song to learn. There are songs on this album that are in retrospect a piece of cake compared to this song, because some of the notation, some of the chord playing, some of the licks that are in there are not easy to get from part to part to part smoothly, and the solos that he does in there are really, really well done, and they're not like the standard kind of pentatonic stuff. There's some diatonic stuff, there's some harmonic minor things, there's like all kinds of stuff going on this, and I love this song.
Ken.
Yeah, it's probably my fault that it's so.
It is your fault, but I thought I'd let you admit it.
Yeah, I'll admit it. I mean, I think actually, after I was listening to the album again today, I was like, oh, you know what? I would have put this song up higher, and then I would have put another one. I was like, whatever. But it's too late. So I wasn't gonna screw up Julian's Excel spreadsheet.
Thank you.
But anyway, I mean, again, all the songs in this are good. Believer, I even say it's a good song, even though it's the bottom of the list. It's a good song. I like the interesting, the strange effects and the tones of on this song, and really, totally like this, the great solo. Soloing from Randy is just, does it anyway every time, but this one was especially good. So yeah, this, it's not bad. It just fell low on my list.
All right, it was accidentally at the bottom. I understand. There you go. That's plausible.
Accidentally.
Accidentally at the bottom.
All right, next up in fourth place on 18 points. All right, I've heard it called a Sato, S-A-T-O, or Strange Voyage. Lonnie.
I call it SATO. I like it. It's good. Again, it's like Little Dolls. Ozzy howling is for me the most memorable part of it. It sounds more like a Sabbath song to me almost. Um, I like it. I think I have it pretty much in the middle of my list. I have it five, just ahead of Little Dolls. Um, I was kind of teetering back and forth between the two of them. Again, it's good. I like it. There's not a lot of like catchiness to it or anything like that, but it's a good song. Very well played by his band, and I love Ozzy's. I just love the sound of Ozzy's vocals on the song. It's good. Probably considered filler by a lot of people on this album, but again, with 8 songs, there's not a lot of filler on this album.
So I'm on Song Facts right now, and it says
Okay.
SATO stands for Sharon Arden and
Yeah.
Thelma Osborne. So, and that the
Some are
lyrics,
ticked off.
some of the lyrics were inspired by the 1261 letter written by a Buddhist monk. The letter is called "A Ship to Cross the Sea of Suffering." Wow, Ozzy's pretty well read. Ken.
Wow.
Yeah.
Blowing my
That's
mind.
what was going on.
So yeah, this song is it's a little low on my list too, but I still like it a lot. I like it a lot. It's a cool rocker, has a great groove. Um, it starts slow again, but it kicks in right away. A lot of cool busy drums going on, and bass, and the bass is really cool on this too. One thing I noticed though, I was listening to it, the verses of it. I was like, I know that those verses sound like something like another song, and I thought, oh shoot, there's a Blackfoot song, Teenage Idol. I said, oh, Blackfoot must have stole from Ozzy, because that song came after this song. But it sounded same verses, just the same melody in those verses. I thought that was kind of funny. The only thing I really don't like is at the end. I don't like the ending of it, where it
What?
goes right into. I don't like the ending where it
Oh
goes
my
cuts
God.
and goes right into Diary of a Madman. I just don't like it. I think they should have kept it separate.
Oh
Just
man.
keep it separate. That's my opinion.
I'm disappointed, Ken. I thought when you said that this sounded like something I'd heard, you were going to go into the Buddhist monk and the 1261 letter.
Yeah, come on,
Instead you went the other direction, went Blackfoot. Oh, come on.
Sorry.
All right, Mark. Apart from Ken's segue issues, what do you think of SATO?
I think this is one of these songs I really, again, grew on me a little bit later. I never really listened to the back part of the album when I was younger for a little while, but now, in retrospect, listening to it, I missed out on many years of listening to this song and Diary, which to me are probably one of my best 1-2 sections of the album, in my opinion. That introduction in here is just great. That a little thing that he does on the guitar with there, and then how it just kicks into that simple part there. Right, and all that stuff that he does in between. It's great. I think it's really simple, that whole thing. It's just E, C, A, B, and then the G, F sharp, and that's it. And it all is this. And it's really easy, but that's what makes it great again, is because Ozzy has all that space to sing over to it. And I really love the pace of it. It's very upbeat. Like Ken said, the bass playing in this is fantastic. The drumming is very active. It's just, you can't help but kind of find yourself just bopping along to it and just jamming to it. It's really well done. Again, a great solo in this, and I love the ending feel. It's when it starts kicking into the ending, how that keyboard comes swelling back in underneath it, and it has those little chords coming in, and the notes, and the keyboard comes in, and it's just a simple, and then it goes right into that beautiful I mean, I think it works so good. I don't. I mean, sure, everybody has their own opinion, and there's no right and wrong. So don't feel that, Ken. I mean, your opinion's your opinion.
You're
You know,
absolutely no.
but you know,
I know.
I really love that segue. To me, it's just such a fantastic segue, and that whole part was one of my missions in the summertime to learn that whole introductory chord thing there, and that whole right. I mean, that whole thing. I was spending summertime with my guitar, playing it and going through it, and even that song. I mean, we'll get to that after, but that's not an easy song either. But that is a great example of something kind of easier on guitar with this SATO, and then giving you something to jam out with as a young guitar player. That's something that's really simple. You can really rock out with. You can even improvise a bit, and it doesn't sound wrong, you know. But then you go from that into something that's like a complete guitar masterpiece afterwards. But SATO is such a great song. I'm so glad that they put this on record, and that that I learned it. It was one of my favorite moments in my young guitar playing days to learn this album and this song in particular.
Yeah. Fantastic song. You've summed it up. You've hit enough of the points that I would have made. I have nothing further to add to it after that other than a round of applause. All right, moving on. The top 3 songs are really no surprise to anyone. Maybe the order will be. But in third place, we haven't really broken away from the rest of the pack. It's only on 20 points, so SATO only just falls behind Flying High Again. So, Mark, back to you for Flying High Again, which, who was it that said forwards and backwards?
Forwards and backwards. It wasn't me. But I do say, though, that this song, for example, is how Lonnie said that you can't kill rock and roll. That's his, like, my God, I don't want to hear this song ever again because they played so much in, St. Louis there. I don't think I'd want to ever hear this song ever again because they played this song to death here on Toronto Rock Radio all the time. I don't think that there's been a day when I've turned on Q107 that I haven't heard Flying High Again on the radio. And it's a bad song. In fact, that's probably one of my favorite Randy Rhoads guitar solo bits, that two-handed tapping bit, in the end part of the guitar solo. That was one of the things that helped me learn my tapping skills, was that song. And it's not an overly difficult song on guitar. Like, the rhythm parts in it are pretty simple. When you're a 16 or 17-year-old kid, talking about, getting high on marijuana is always kind of cool, man, when you hear songs like that. So it was big amongst my group of people and friends that we used to hang out with. And they played it a lot. This album got played a lot. And because it's so early in the album, you can't kind of escape it, right? It's always going to be played within the first, 10, 15 minutes when you're listening to the records. It's going to pop up. But because it's been played so much on radio here, that's why it's on my list. It never really went that high. I don't think I put it very low. I think, where did I put it? I put it at 5th, okay? Which is not bad. But, all things considered, I think most people, if you ask the general public what song off this album they know, I think 90% of them, at least here in Toronto, would say Flying High Again, for sure. So that's probably why it didn't rank higher on my list. But it's not a bad song. I think Ozzy does some good singing in this. It's probably one of his more memorable vocals that he's done on a record. And again, Randy, I think that he holds back a bit in the verses and the choruses, but he lets it rip in the solo. And I always kind of tried to think back if this is one of those songs that he might have had hanging around back from his Quiet Riot days that he kind of showed Ozzy. I don't remember, but there are moments of his Quiet Riot days that pop up in some of the songs in both albums. So I'm trying to remember what is what. But I'm not too good on remembering his Quiet Riot days.
I love those albums, by the way. I have to talk about them one of these days. Lonnie.
Yeah.
I like Flying High Again. It's one of Ozzy's signature songs. I mean, you guys mentioned, Mark, you said that, well, if somebody's going to know one song off this album, it's going to be this one. And it is one of his more signature songs. It's one that he always does when he plays live. it's great. I mean, I remember I saw him in the summer of '96, and Clinton was up for re-election, and the merch booth had T-shirts that had like Ozzy smoking, had a T-shirt with Ozzy smoking a joint, and on it said "I effing inhaled." I thought it was the funniest thing ever. So
Nice.
it's an inside joke back to the '90s, but very very classic Ozzy at the same time. So. I mean, and I mean, he's played it every time I've seen him live, and it's just classic Ozzy. I mean, I think I have it maybe four, just because of some of the other songs on the album. Just by default, it's four, but it's one of Ozzy's signature songs, and it's a great song. And I can see why it's three on our panel. And you guys, I mean, I said it was four. Mark, you said I think you had it fifth. So obviously, Ken and Julian, tell us why you guys had it so much higher than Mark and I.
Yeah.
I didn't. So
never mind.
I had it in fourth. But again, it's catchy. It's impossible to dislike it as much as it's overplayed, because it is so fun, good time rock and roll, and it can be taken obviously in multiple ways, whether you want to go at it from the inhaling perspective or just being a positive I've been down, I'm back up, perspective. Both of them are good, and it's a great vocal. It just chugs along. It's got the right tempo. Ken, your take.
Yeah, you mean to tell me this song's not about flying in a jet airliner?
No, it's not Steve Miller.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, something else. Anyway,
Missed the point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Mark said, it's a simple riff, but again, it makes a simple riff makes lots of times a great catchy song, and that's what it is. Yeah, I remember it was big on the radio. I remember the first time hearing it, and I thought, man, this is awesome. But yeah, they overplayed it because it was so good, and I heard it 1,000 times. But like Mark was talking too about, the Randy solo was good. It's a nice solo that it fits the song. It actually fits the song nicely, so it's very cool. Nothing much else to say about it, though. It was number 3 on my list, so it was up there. I started thinking, well, what would I like if I first heard this album, and that would be definitely one of the ones that I would put up there if I heard it for the first time. I was like, wow, this is awesome song. So, but yeah, we get a little bit tired of it, but it's still a great song. That's why it's so high.
Yep. I get everyone? I lost track of myself again.
I think you did.
Okay.
I think so.
All right, so now we're into the green zone, the top 2 songs. We have clear separation. This next song got 27 points between the 4 of us, so that's a substantial jump, and that just shows how unanimous we are in our thoughts on these top 2 songs. In second place, the title track, Diary of a Madman. I don't think anything needs to be said about that song. It's just absolutely fantastic. It wasn't my top pick. It's number 2 for me. It's number 2 for Mark. Why, Mark?
Well, I mean, the number 1 song is number 1 for a reason. I'll get to it when we get to it. But number 2, it's again, it's so good. This song had such a huge impact on me, not only from the guitar playing perspective of an electric guitar player, but to see somebody like Randy pull out a classical guitar and play something like this, it really opened one's young eyes to say, you know what, maybe it would be cool to pull a classical guitar and learn how to play it a little bit better than I did at the time. And like I said, I sat down, hunkered down, learned it, and it really broadened my playing overall, learning this song, because even the playing in the verses, that screaming at the window, all those little chords that he does underneath, they're not your standard A and G chord. They're like these little add 3, add 7 chords, and all these little things that he does to it. And the drum and bass section underneath, that do-do, do-do, it's such an odd little syncopation underneath that they do to it. I think that it's really well written. The middle section is very good with the choir and all that stuff that they do in there, and the build up towards the solo, that and the solo is probably one of his really well written solos. That whole solo in that solo section is just Randy, thank you. It's so good, man. That solo. It just proves that you don't need to go 1,000 miles an hour to write a fantastic solo that'll be memorable for the next 50, 60 years of guitar playing. And Randy has left us that kind of a legacy with his playing. I mean, like I said, Jake is still my guy for Ozzy, but Randy has a special place in my heart for what he did for me as a young player growing up.
Nice. Ken, I'm almost surprised that this is kind of middle of the pack for you.
Yeah, Ken was on you.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, well, wait a minute. I mean, it's 4, all right?
It's
So-
8 songs on the album.
It's on the,
Middle of the pack.
yeah, it's on the top half. But anyway, I don't know. I like it a lot. It's a great song. It's an epic. I would call it an epic type song. And it's a cool song to end the album. Actually, it kind of fits as a song that should end the album. And I agree with Mark. Just like you said, I was thinking the same thing as part of my notes about the middle, in the middle, the riffing part that's going on, and then followed by that guitar solo. It's just awesome. And then I like those vocals. You said, I don't know if it's a choir, or, like you said, or whatever, but it's the that part that happens. It's just a great part of the song. So yeah, it's very, very good. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just very good. I like it a lot. It's one of my favorites on the album.
All right, Lonnie, it is your favorite on this album.
It is. It is absolutely epic to me, from the way it begins and just crescendos to the end. It is absolute masterpiece in my opinion. I'm kind of with Julian. Like I don't even know what to say about it. It is a masterpiece. It is perfection from start to finish. Just the way it just builds and builds and builds and builds, and just like the choir scene at the end. It just to me, it just defines Ozzy as an artist, especially in that time with that song itself. It's just so big at the end, and I just love it. It reminds me of like Guns N' Roses' Estranged, how that starts off small and just builds and builds and builds, and it's a long song and is just epic by the time it ends. And by the time it ends, just like, oh my gosh, what did I just listen to? That's what it reminds me of. And you guys know my thoughts on that. So I absolutely love the song, and I wish I would have been able to hear Ozzy play it live, because it is so good from start to finish. It's one of my favorite Ozzy songs, period. So to me, it was a slam dunk choice for number 1.
Yep. Well, here we are. We are at number 1, and I guess it's not really surprising that on 30 points, the winner. Well, they're all winners. Every song on this album gets a participation medal. Over the Mountain, which right from the beginning, those drums kicking in, the importance of your lead off track are just illustrated perfectly by this song. But I just get fixated on this when listening to it, especially with headphones on, like I listen to most of my music. I'm like a cat chasing a laser pointer. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, hear that. All these different sounds and textures, and Randy's technique. It's not buried under the vocal. You can hear him doing his magic on this song. But it's also so powerful and bombastic that, it really does set the tone for the album. It's almost insurmountable to start off at that high a point. Lonnie, back to you, Over the Mountain.
I mean, if Diary is a perfect song for this album to end with, Over the Mountain is a perfect song for this album to open with. With that drum intro and the riff, and like, okay, here we go. It's just like, off we go. It's great. It's absolutely very underrated. I mean, we all said it was the best song. The consensus among the 4 of us, it was the number 1 song, but I think it's still an underrated Ozzy song in my opinion. I think it should get more attention than what it does. Just for the simple fact of Randy's guitar playing, Ozzy singing the drums, everything about it is really, really good. Another good motivational song like Believer, which you guys know I have a tendency to really like big motivational, pump you up type songs. So Over the Mountain is absolutely great too. And even though I picked Diary number one, I'm not shocked at all. I would have been shocked if Over the Mountain wasn't the consensus number one pick.
Yeah, Mark, but on the last one, you got to talk about a lot of Randy's, interesting chordings, I guess, patterns, and, picking. On this one, for me anyway, it's about Randy as a rhythm player and the importance of a strong rhythm guitar, but also you get phasing, you get wah, you get a lot of the FX trick bag coming out, and when you watch him playing this, it's almost impossible not to just fixate on his playing. What's your take on Over the Mountain?
I really love this song. I mean, from the very first time I heard that song, like with that opening drum part, like you mentioned, that was just like, wow, what's going on here? And that whole chording, I mean, there's a lot of sinisterness going on in this, like that. It's not like your sort of normal progression of chords in there. And a lot of those little licks they does in between that, those are like double tracked. He'll like harmonize it and stuff like that. And the rhythm and playing in this is really top notch, just like you mentioned, Julian. I mean, try playing that song at that tempo, perfectly. It's something that really works on your wrist. That whole right hand, all that stuff is really challenging to play at that tempo and that cleanly and clearly. And the other part that's a real bastard to play is that that thing, because he does like these double note chordings that he plays in the song, right? And it's just a killer to play that stuff. And the part before the solo, that no, it's almost like some kind of like demonic harmonic minor section in there that happens. It's really cool, the note selection that he has in there, and the guitar solo, the little arpeggios that he does, and the breakdown section is like the selling point. Like it's like the spotlight on Randy, that those little licks he does in between the dead stops, and you can tell that's the introduction of it. Well, not the introduction, but there's a good example of him using the whammy bar in there. They just there, and the dive bomb at the end. It's just incredible. And Randy has been known to use a lot of pedals and a lot of effects for his songs, and for in the studio they do a lot of stuff like that for his sound. And I mean, he recreates it live. I mean, it's probably going to be hard to see, but in this picture here, you can see his pedal board. It's massive. He has like 9 pedals on that thing there, plus a wah pedal, plus a volume pedal. He has all kinds of shit in there. But because he wants to recreate his sound live, And the funny thing is, in the studio, when they were at Ridgeway, Ozzy used to call it the chip fryer, that pedal board, because he said when Randy used to turn on the amp and he would turn the pedals on, it was like, so he used to call it the chip fryer, right? But it's because back in those days the technology for the patch cords and the buffering and all this stuff was not as good as it is nowadays. Nowadays you wouldn't have nowhere near as much noise from the pedals, but back then those MXR pedals were death, for noise. So, but one thing I have to say before I end my little rant is, one person that we've overlooked in this that needs real high praise is Max Norman, the guy who did the production work on this and engineered it. Just amazing job on this album. Far better, in my opinion, than Blizzard of Oz. I like this album much better. It's a bit fuller. The guitar sound is better on this album than on Blizzard, in my opinion. And Max Norman, this album really put him on the map, and he went on to do a lot of great albums, like with Megadeth and other bands. He did stuff for lots of other bands that I can think of. Like I think maybe in Lynch Mob he did some stuff too with maybe. But Max Norman is a name that needs to be attached to this album.
No, it's good that you call him out. What's your take? It's a musician who knows the importance of keyboards. We haven't talked about that element on this album either. I mean, what's your thoughts on that part of the production?
They're vital. I mean, most people, when you think back to metal music, people kind of frown on keyboards, but a lot of the bands that we all like had introduction of keyboards into their music eventually. Look at Iron Maiden, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. There's a lot of keyboards in there. Somewhere in Time had the introduction of keyboards in there as well. But when you think back to songs like on Blizzard of Oz, Revelation, Mother Earth, there's piano and stuff like that in there, and there's definitely keyboards spiced into these songs as well. I mean, SATO, Tonight, Diary of a Madman, all these songs have keys in it. You Can't Kill Rock and Roll have some padding stuff underneath. It's there because you want to make the song sound as sonically pleasing as possible and to fill in the spaces that maybe you can't do with some of the guitar, bass, and drums. And sometimes a really low synth pad might fill in the bottom end a lot better than what your bass can at the time. And by doing that, by putting in a lower synth line, for example, you freeze up the bass guitar to do something a little bit more melodic higher up on the neck. So he doesn't have to worry about the low end as much. So keyboards are important.
Yeah. All right. Final word on Over the Mountain, Ken.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, Mark's pretty much said everything about it. But it, I love the song. To me, it's that simple riff, but it's great. The cool drums during the chorus, and the great solo break. So it's number one on my list too. It's just a great song. I don't get tired of it, and that's maybe one of the good things about it. I love hearing it every time. It doesn't get old. So it's a really, really great song.
Yeah, it was only last year that I finally bought the deluxe edition of this, which has the live performance at the end.
Yeah,
yeah,
really good.
And it's just so easy to put that album on, leave it on repeat, and you just go around and around and around. It doesn't get boring. It's a very vibrant album from start to finish. The live album bonus, I know it was out there, but, it's nice to have any of that stuff officially and sounding that quality because it is really good. But I do think this album, if there's any album in Ozzy's catalog that needs a super, super deluxe edition, you just wish that they could sort out some of that crap that's preventing something really good from coming out from the first two albums. And my preference would be for this one to go first, just because I prefer it to the first album. Not that I think the first album's a lesser album than this. They're both fantastic. I just happen to like some of the subject matter of the songs and the balance throughout it. That is it. That is our ranking of Ozzy's Diary of a Madman. And just to give you a quick recap, 8th place Tonight on 7 points, 7th Little Dolls on 11 points, 6th place You Can't Kill Rock and Roll on 14, Believer in 5th on 17, Sharon Arden, Thelma Osborne in 4th place on 18 points. Flying High Again is indeed flying high in 3rd place on 20 points. Diary of a Madman in 2nd on 27. What's that, Ken? Is that one of those
Marvel
recent
edition.
reissues? That's cool.
You're muted, Ken.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's a newer edition that came. It's one of the Walmart ones,
Nice.
but it's remastered. It sounds great. This one really sounds good. I think it was originally who redid it. I don't know. It was on Legacy, but yeah, it sounds really fantastic remastered, and yeah, it looks pretty cool too. So that doesn't hurt.
All right. Very cool. Let us know your thoughts on Diary of a Madman. Where does it fit in your appreciation of Ozzy's discography? What do you agree with us? What did we miss? There's a whole lot we didn't talk about with these songs. So chime in with your thoughts, your opinions. We appreciate you listening to us, and we look forward to seeing you again sooner than we have. So for now, from Ken, Lonnie, Mark, and myself, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode. Be sure to subscribe to us, like us, or even leave us a review. You can find us and join the conversation on Facebook.